And this is the one that we wanted. Iga Swiatek versus Jelena Ostapenko at the quarterfinal stage for the WTA Stuttgart 2025 tournament. I cannot wait to get into this one. It is the first meeting between the two on clay, but Jelena Ostapenko leads the head-to-head 5-0. Iga has never beaten her. Jelena just seems to have the Iga cheat code. Incredible head-to-head, incredible matchup. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Before we do, though, remember to that like button. Do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. Also, make sure you click the notification bell so you get alerted to all new uploads, and make sure your notifications in YouTube settings is turned on. Otherwise, it won't work. Let's get into it. So, head-to-head, as I mentioned, was 5-0 to Ostapenko. They have never played on clay, though. So, all the meetings, bar one, were on hard court, and then one was on grass. They've played once this year, in 2025, that is, at the Qatar Open, and Ostapenko won comprehensively 6-3, 6-1. Really, really impressive performance. She just clearly is able to raise her game quite substantially against Iga. And we know that she's a very talented player, Ostapenko, no doubt, but she has, and throughout her whole career, had a lot of inconsistency, not just in periods of months and years, but actually during matches she fluctuates. She might win a match in 3 sets but get bageled one of the sets, and that's not something that is so weird to see from someone like Ostapenko, because her level fluctuates so dramatically at times. Against Swiatek, she doesn't seem to have that issue. She's completely dialed in. It's almost like she knows exactly what she needs to do to beat Swiatek, and she's got the confidence, I think, of the head-to-head, and knows that Iga fears her. I think she really does relish playing the pole because she's such a top player now as well. She, I think, Ostapenko just absolutely loves this matchup, and I'm sure she'll go into this one just as confident. But will she get the win? Because this is Iga's favourite surface. This is the surface where she's won multiple Grand Slams on. She is the current Roland Garros champion as well. And then you've got Ostapenko, who actually, people might forget, has won a Grand Slam, and she won it a few years back at Roland Garros. So she also is good on clay, or very good, you could argue. However, I think it being on clay is a positive for Swiatek more than Ostapenko, if I'm being honest, especially given how the matchup plays out normally. However, it being indoors in Stuttgart, I think, just means that it's not quite as slow as an outdoor hardcourt, and it's not quite as high bouncing or conducive to spin as an outdoor clay court. I said outdoor hardcourt, didn't I? As an outdoor clay court. So, yes, it's clay, but it's not the traditional slow Rome or Roland Garros clay courts. There is a little bit of, I would say, a little bit of this tournament is maybe slightly more geared in between clay and hard, whereas it might play a little bit like a very slow hard court potentially, instead of the archetypal clay court. That's what I've potentially seen from this tournament over the years. So in terms of how this is going to play, I'm going to try and keep this short. Iga has beaten only one player so far, Jelena Ostapenko, in her first match, but she hasn't won a tournament this year, bear that in mind. Ostapenko, though, also hasn't won a title this year, made the final of the Qatar Open, lost to Anisimova, but she's beaten Yashemska and Navarro so far in this tournament. Look, I mean, the point I made about it being still conditions being indoors, not quite as slow and high bouncing as a clay court, I think is probably highlighted by the fact that Rybakina beat Iga last year in this tournament. I know Rybakina has beaten Iga in Rome once before as well, and Iga had to retire in the third set, but I do think on an ordinary day, on an outdoor clay court, Iga's a big favourite against Rybakina, despite Rybakina having having attributes that could definitely trouble Iga. So that win, I think, probably is more geared towards the conditions also being a bit more favourable to Rybakina. Ostapenko hits as hard as Rybakina, if not harder from the baseline, I would argue. And against Iga, she takes the ball early, and she doesn't give up her baseline position, which rushes Iga, and she's had a lot of issues, especially on the forehand wing, because Penko just goes so hard into that forehand side, and it doesn't hold up as well as the backhand side defensively. She takes big cuts of the ball, and she gets jammed. She gets jammed at times, and it can look quite awkward for her. She definitely takes some of Iga's defensive capabilities away with this ultra-aggressive tactic by, as I said, just really trying to not give any room, anything up from the baseline. She doesn't want to push herself behind the baseline and be hitting from 1, 2, 3, 4 meters behind the baseline, which it'll be interesting to see if she does this on a clay court, but I imagine she will try to do the same, because I don't think any tactic is going to work other than the one that she's employed in the 5 previous matches she's used against Iga, especially on a clay court. She also has really effective first strike tennis when she's playing well, Ostapenko, ending rallies early with massive the forehand or backhand side. She's got winner hitting ability of both wings. She goes after the ball. She takes it early. She's able to take it at shoulder height as well. She's not afraid to. And with Iga, I think some players, they might be able to nullify that a little bit with a slice. Iga doesn't really slice too much, and on a clay court, it's going to sit up a bit as well. So it's not an ideal tactic for the pole. So I think that plays into Ostapenko's hands a little bit too. But Ostapenko is a high-risk player, and she's executed this game plan to a T in the 5 matches they've played so far. So I guess the question is, can she do it again on a third surface? Look, I mean, in line with her game plan and how aggressive she normally is against Iga, and I think obviously generally as a player, is how effective her returning has been against Iga as well. And it's going to be effective, you'd imagine, especially in these conditions, because on a clay court, because of the conditions, because of it being slower, it just means that as a returner, you are rewarded for very good returning, and you're not rewarded as much for potent serving. I think that's fair to say. I mean, if you look at, for example, on the men's side, Rafa Nadal, one of the best returners of all time, and his serve, I mean, not even in the top 10 of all time, maybe not even top 20, maybe not top 30, but returning wise, he was in the top 2, no doubt about it. And that is a big reason for why he won so many Roland Garros titles. And not just Roland Garros, but clay court matches. He was just so good on clay. Iga is a phenomenal returner. But the issue that she has is her serve being so weak and Ostapenko really stepping in. She's going to have a lot of stress, I think, in her service games. And she does normally against Ostapenko. Then she feels the pressure in the return games because she feels like she's constantly chasing her tail. And Ostapenko, the one thing for her is that actually her first serve, she's been hitting quite big this year. And for the last 12 months, when I say big, I mean in comparison to what she was before. But the issue for her is that, again, on a clay court, it's not going to be as effective. So she's going to have to rely more on the first strike tennis. And rather than maybe putting Iga away with one shot from the baseline off the serve, or 2 shots, it might have to be 3 or 4. So she's going to have to she'll still be very aggressive, but she's going to have to try to be slightly more solid than she has in the 5 matches she has against Iga in the past, and just make sure that her shot tolerance is just a little bit better, just a little bit. She doesn't need to defend. That's not going to be the tactic, but she needs to still, I think, be a little bit better. She might have to play an extra shot or 2, potentially, to end points. And I mean, in those return games, I mean, she's been able to get to neutral at a minimum, even on the first serve, because Iga's serve it's a work in progress, I think, still, especially the first serve. But the one thing that she does have to her advantage is that she's got a very good kick serve, and that works really well on clay. But I don't think Ostapenko is going to worry too much. I think she will take it at shoulder height. I don't think she minds taking the ball early and high like that, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I mean, look, Iga will need to push Ostapenko back. She'll have to. That is the tactic for her. Stop her from playing super aggressive, inside the baseline, on the baseline to induce errors. Instead of watching winners fly past her, she's going to have to try and push Penko back, make her move, really get her to work hard for her points. Because if she moves Ostapenko in challenging ways, she's not the best mover on tour, Ostapenko, and I think there was that crazy stat at Wimbledon last year where she's run hardly anything in terms of, just meters covered in comparison to the other women on tour at the same stage at Wimbledon. So it was just crazy. And it's just because she was playing ultra aggressive tennis, and she will hit, yes, a lot of errors, but she hits a lot of winners too. That's just the way she plays. And if Iga can get her to play multiple balls in place of only having to play one, then I think she'll give herself a good chance. So she'll stop Ostapenko from planting her feet and just swinging comfortably and aggressively. Ostapenko will have to go for even higher risk shots on the run, and I don't think she's going to have the same potency, of course, moving side to side laterally, even vertically as well. And if Iga had a good drop shot, I would say maybe use that, but she just doesn't have the best drop shot. So on clay, it's quite a useful tool when you're pushing players back, but against Ostapenko, probably not the tool for Iga to use. I think for her, it's going to be, can she hit with high topspin deep, really force Ostapenko to be pushed back, because it then forces Ostapenko to say, well, okay, if you're hitting a lot of balls super deep with a lot of topspin on a clay court, I've got two options. Either which is quite a risky ploy, is take it almost on the half volley, take it off the bounce so that, I don't have to then move back. But she's really relying on supreme timing there. Or she says, I'll move back to give myself more time, better contact point. But she does that, and then she gives up a lot of that aggressive court positioning that she normally has against Iga. So that's not ideal. And then if Iga finds angles, then Ostapenko is going to have to potentially go for some, not just high risk, but super high risk shots, like being dragged out wide off court and then maybe going down the line around the net, things like that, which are going to be very difficult to pull off, especially on a consistent basis. I also think Iga needs to be brave with the serve, especially with the first serve, needs to go for it. None of this in the middle of the box stuff. I'm just not a fan of that, especially from her, because I think the serve either way is going to be attacked from Ostapenko, at least attempted to be attacked. So Swiatek should do her best to try and get as many free points as she can, even on a clay court, on her first serve. That's going to be really key for me. So a lot to dive into. It's a longer preview than usual, but it's just such an intriguing and crazy matchup, if I'm being honest. Prediction, I'm actually going to go with Ostapenko to do it again. In 3 sets this time. I think Iga will take a set. I just think if it was outdoor clay, I'd probably think that Iga would take the win and get her first win. I think a lot of this is not just down to skill set and the conditions. I think a lot of it is also down to mental. And Iga's been struggling with that a little bit this year. So this matchup, I don't think has come at a good time for Swiatek, but I could be wrong. Let's see. Let me know in the comment section below what you think and why. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well. We'll see you on the next video.